After a long day at Disneyland in September 2000, Brandon Zucker and his family decided to end their visit with one final ride on the Roger Rabbit cartoon spin. This ride, which was based on the Academy Award-winning film Who Framed Roger Rabbit, had debuted at the park 6 years earlier in January 1994 and was a popular choice among visitors. The ride featured a yellow taxicab that could hold 2 people and would take them through a series of twists and turns while encountering wicked weasels and other surprises. To participate in the ride, visitors needed to board one of the taxicabs, which would leave the loading area when the traffic light turned green and take riders on a wild ride through Toontown, including spinning 360 degrees. Brandon, who was wearing tennis shoes and Mickey Mouse ears, and his family arrived at the park around 11 a.m. It was just after 10 p.m. when Brandon and his 6-year-old brother Nicholas, along with their mother Victoria, who was driving, jumped into a yellow taxicab on the ride. Brandon's father David and grandmother Jean Kurland followed in the next car. The traffic light in the loading area turned green and the family set off, unaware of the horror that was about to unfold. Minutes into the ride, disaster struck when Brandon fell out of the cab. His father, who was in the car behind, witnessed the incident. Brandon's mother had bent down to pick up something, and Brandon fell out of the vehicle without even having time to scream for help. The whole incident happened very quickly. When Brandon fell out of the car, his father yelled, "Brandon fell out! He's underneath the car! Get him out!" The screams of Brandon's mother soon joined those of his father. Brandon was trapped and pinned under the yellow taxicab. David rushed out of his own moving carriage, trying desperately to stop the car, which had dragged Brandon about 10 feet before coming to a stop in the Bull in a China Shop section of the ride. David tried to lift the car off Brandon, but it was too heavy to budge. By this point, Brandon was not moving and was trapped between the center bar and the side of the vehicle. His grandmother gently stroked his hand, trying to comfort him, but he remained unconscious. The ride operator realized that something was wrong and ran to help, pressing the emergency button on the control panel and allegedly trying to assist David in freeing Brandon while another employee was called to dial 911. The ride was then evacuated. According to witnesses, Allison Fields and her husband Frank, they saw David pleading for help and assistance from the ride operator, who initially went with David but then returned. David returned a second and third time, but the operator reportedly ignored him. Eventually, a group of approximately 10 people, including Leon and his wife, ignored Disneyland officials and jumped the barriers to try and help the child. Allison claims that she checked for a pulse but couldn't find one. The group tried to lift the car off Brandon but were unsuccessful, and he remained trapped. The scene was described as horrific, with Brandon's mother screaming, "Not my baby, please God, anything but my baby." Frank and Allison eventually left the scene as it was too distressing for them. Another witness stated that it took Disney too long to inform the police, and when the call was finally made, the police arrived within 3 minutes, followed by firefighters a minute later. The firefighters used a hydraulic jack to free Brandon from the ride. Disney rescue staff performed CPR on him until the paramedics arrived and were able to get a pulse. Brandon was blue from the lack of oxygen and could not breathe on his own. He was transported to UCI Medical Center, where he underwent surgery for 2 hours. Although he survived, his injuries were severe, including a ruptured diaphragm, liver, spleen, and other major internal injuries. When the ride crushed Brandon, he went into cardiac arrest and suffered brain damage. After the incident, he was unable to walk or speak and spent more than a month in a drug-induced coma. The state investigation found that Disneyland staff failed to properly secure Brandon in the ride using the smallest child bar and did not fully lower the lap bar. It also ordered that sensors be installed around the bottom of each car and other significant safety improvements be made to the ride. Brandon's family sued the company and reportedly reached a settlement to help cover the cost of his expensive medical treatment. Over the next 8 years, Brandon faced numerous challenges as he received treatment in and out of hospitals. His mother said, "He battled for 8 years in and out of the hospital, and he fought very hard. We did every kind of therapy and everything that we could possibly do for him in those 8 years. He just got tired, but he still gave us a lot of love, and we gave it to him." Unfortunately, Brandon's health continued to decline, and he passed away at Children's Hospital of Orange County on January 26, 2009, at the age of 13. His mother said, "Every time he was poked and prodded, another piece was taken out of my heart. I've been grieving for 8 years. He's running and playing with all his legs and feet on his scooter up in heaven.